Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Welcome to Travel Business Unpacked podcast. On today's episode, we have Deana King of King Travel Design. Thank you so much for joining us, Deana.
Thank you for having me.
So this podcast is all about giving a voice to an opportunity for people who have a passion for travel, who may have been not probably very successful in a different career, um, and have been thinking kind of at the back of their mind for a long time, what would it be like to possibly create a whole new career journey out of my passion? And I think the travel agent business model has been broken for so long that there's a lot of people who don't realize that there really is a legitimate, lucrative, life changing path where they can monetize that passion and it's sustainable. And so this podcast is all about giving a voice to that, and letting people in on on the inside, like opening the kimono and saying there are people at Gifted Travel Network who are actually doing this. They're on this path. We have carved that path out for people. We've got many, many, many advisors in our network who are on that path. And this podcast is just so that people can see those people who might be still considering it and haven't really had the ability to take that leap of faith yet, or people who are on that path and not necessarily feeling supported by their own host agency, because the destination that we have architected our programs to guide people to, um, is not necessarily what they're experiencing at their own host agency. So that's who this podcast is for. That's what this podcast is about. And so today we're going to get an inside scoop on Deana King and King Travel Design, and a little bit about where you were before, a little bit about your journey in creating this business and building this business, and a little bit about what it is like to be a travel advisor who has arrived at phase 4 of the business. We'll talk about that in a second, what that means, and how your life has changed because of it. So, Deana, let's get started with my first question, which is, can you tell us a little bit about your career and before you started King Travel Design?
Or absolutely. So I started out of college with a job in the food and beverage industry. I was there for 32 years. Most of that time, all with the same company, a Fortune 50 company. I
Wow.
was very privileged. I loved my job. I loved everything about the people I worked with. And my role in my last several years, I was a supply chain executive. I managed teams in the field of over 500. I was the supply chain seat at the table, if you will, for a region business team accountable for over 1 billion in revenue. I led a headquarter team responsible for 200 distribution centers. So really all facets within food and beverage supply chain.
You developed an enormous amount of expertise. I would imagine that and I'm only saying this because this is how I felt. In my career, where I was in my zone of excellence back in the day before I started in the travel industry, um, zone of excellence is where you're really, really good at something. You're being promoted. You're being financially rewarded for that in your career, and so you're getting all the accolades, and you're being encouraged to continue to move upwards up that ladder and on a successful journey, but you don't really love what you do. Was that the case for you?
It wasn't the case for me, honestly, until my last few years. My last few years, I just started to get a little burnt out. And I honestly I don't know that I felt fully appreciated for the value that I brought. And, 32 years is a long time to do the same thing. And, honestly, I was getting to a point where um, because I had put in so many years that I knew I could retire at an early age. And I always thought that, hey, I'm going to retire someday and then I'm going to go sit at the beach and read books. And then I quickly realized that no, that's not, I'm a very type A personality. I love to be challenged. And that's not what I'm looking for. So, in my next phase of life, I just started thinking about, okay, what can I go do that will fulfill me and challenge me and maybe is a little different than what I've done in the past.
So that leads me into the next question, which is tell us about how you discovered the opportunity that you're now to build a business around your passion for travel.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a funny story. So I was always a DIYer. I planned several trips for my family to Europe, and I just so happened to be in the middle of planning my family's trip to South Africa. I had so much fun planning the trip, but it took me hours and hours and days and weeks. I knew how much time I poured into it. And it was just around that time when my husband and I were sitting around one weekend just talking about what could I do in my next phase. And he's the one who pointed out my neighbor is an independent contractor for a different host agency. And he suggested I talk to her. And at first, I kind of shrugged it off. I'm like, I know how much time it takes me to plan a trip. I go, there's no way I can make money in this industry. But for the heck of it, yeah. So for the heck of it, I went and I talked to her. And when she explained to me what a host agency is and what Virtuoso is and how all of these things come together, this huge light bulb went off for me. So I started doing some research online and I found Gifted Travel Network simply through Googling. And I found host agency reviews and I loved what I learned through host agency reviews about Gifted, and I reached out, and the rest is history.
Wow. Wow. So you enrolled in Gifted Travel Network's Travel MBA program. Can you walk us through your first year in the business and what that was like and what were the things you were afraid of? What were your expectations and what actually came to fruition?
No, absolutely. So it's kind of ironic that that trip to South Africa, the day we left was actually my final day in corporate America. We went for 2 weeks. I came back for 2 weeks, and then I was in Mooresville, North Carolina, day 1
Wow.
starting my travel journey, and I honestly didn't know what to expect. But as soon as I got there and I met the team, I met you and the other executives and the other gifted members and the lovely ladies that were in my cohort, a lot of my fears went away. My biggest fear was that day I left for South Africa, my paycheck stopped, right? So I went from having a nice paycheck to I had no paycheck
Yeah.
because I'm now starting a new business. I'm paying to invest in my future versus receiving a check. So that was the hardest part for me. But I knew I just needed to believe in myself and believe in the tools that the TMBA training was giving me, and it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is we believe that you can have your cake and eat it too. And we understand that the travel agent, the consumer perception, and you said it yourself, is that I can't make any money doing this. And for the most part, the average travel agent doesn't make great money at all. I want to say last year, Host Agency Reviews report the average income for a hosted travel advisor was $47,000. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't get me out of bed in the morning, especially knowing how much
Right.
work it
Right.
takes to be a travel advisor.
Yes.
This is not like a silver bullet. This is not a, you know, necessarily easy profession, but it is so fulfilling, right? And if you truly have that passion for travel and feel really that moved by what travel can do for people and how it can really change their lives for the better. So yes, that is one of the things that I think is the purpose of this podcast, is to overcome that perception that you can't make any money. You might have this passion for travel, but good luck trying to, monetize that.
Mhm.
We have been carving out a path to monetize a passion for travel for 13 years now. And I feel like it just keeps getting better and better. And our average travel MBA alum, who is now in phase 4 of the business, is actually making close to 5 times the average income
Yeah.
of that hosted travel advisor. So let me just do a quick recap of phase 1. The phases of the travel business that we believe is, after coaching for many, many, many years, people down this path. It just has to do with where you are in sales per year. So when you're under $200,000 in sales per year, you're in phase 1 of the business. When you are between 200 and $600,000 in sales in a 12-month period, you're in phase 2. Phase 3 is 600 to a million. And then phase 4 is when you're over a million. And that's where we think the magic happens. That's where you can have financial satisfaction, you can have fulfillment, and you can have freedom. That's how we define entrepreneurial success at Gift to Travel Network. So Deana has arrived at phase 4. Tell us about getting there,
Yeah.
and some of
Yeah.
the struggles, but some of your successes.
Yeah. First, I just want to go back real quick to right when I made that decision to enter the industry. I was not looking to replace the salary that I was making in corporate America. I was looking to do something that I would enjoy and just to make enough money to go, honestly, just go take some additional personal trips. Had I really had my intention been to replace a higher salary, I probably wouldn't have made the jump. And now that I'm looking back just 2 years later, I now realize I can replace that salary. And it's actually I'm actually shocked by how lucrative the travel industry can be depending how you set your business up, right? And that's
Yes.
what's really great as well, is that it can be as big or as small as you want it to be. You can, if you want it to be bigger, just continue to go higher. But so I'm sorry, jumping back to your question about the journey
Yeah.
that I had. So my first year, I was really focused on my branding and my marketing and just building the business and learning how to, book a trip just all of those types of technical type of things. I started getting some trips from friends, and they were smaller trips, and that continued for a while. My first year, I ended at the way you described the levels. I ended about a level 2. The first half of my second year was about the same, but then 1.5 years in is when everything really just grew by leaps and bounds. In my second year, I achieved level 4 in my second year,
That's
and,
amazing.
I 1,000% attribute it to not only the TMBBA program, because the program is great because it gives you the playbook and the things that you need to go do to create your own business. But what it also gives you is within the GTN network, the support, the mentorship, the collaboration. If it was just the program, you could go put it on the internet and people could go take it and then go grow their business. But it's so much more than that at GTN. And, especially as a new business owner, you need to see that others are going through some of the challenges as you. You need to see that somebody has your back and that somebody's your cheerleader, and you get all of that with GTN. So it's hard to, you know, uh, put in words just how important that is to grow your business, but it's pretty significant.
I call it the 3 C's. It's the coaching, it's the curriculum, and it's the community.
Yes.
And
Yes.
uh, and it's really interesting, um, how most people, when they're considering the program, are very focused on the curriculum and what is in the curriculum, what am I going to learn, what am I going to be expected to do. And they think that when they invest in the program, what they're investing in is this curriculum. And the curriculum is important, but I think it's about 10% of the
Yes.
program. And
Yeah.
really, what you're investing in is the coaching and the community, because our community is so collaborative. And there's people that are way ahead of you on the journey. There are people that are actually behind you. There are people in the same spot on the journey. But what we think is important is everybody's on the same journey, and that we keep guiding you down it, and we give you support no matter where you are.
Yes.
What would you say out of those 3 C's was most important to you, if you can pick one, between the coaching, the curriculum, and the community?
I would say, gosh, I hadn't thought about it that way before. I would say the community between the community and the curriculum,
Yeah,
probably the community would be number one, curriculum
yeah.
number two. Yeah, yeah. Because
Because you're
yeah.
self-coach, because you know how to self-coach, right?
Yeah, a lot of you can't underplay. I definitely see a huge correlation between maybe my ramping up faster than somebody else does because I spent 30 years leading teams in, and even though it was a large corporation, it was a very entrepreneurial type of environment that I worked in. And I see every day how that helps me.
So the 3 F's that we believe are the core components to entrepreneurial success. You've arrived at entrepreneurial
Mhm.
success when you have the freedom, which is what people want entrepreneurship for. You have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, why you want, how you want, with whom you want. You have the fulfillment that you are tapping into a true passion that you have, which means that you are owning your brilliance and realizing that your brilliance can actually have a positive impact on the lives of others. And that is through planning exceptional travel experiences for people that, and you're helping them cultivate memories they're going to cherish for the rest of their lives. And then financial satisfaction. You said it, and I love that you said it, that you didn't expect to replace your income. And I think the people who are the right candidate for our travel MBA program, their priority is not, to make millions and millions of dollars, but they are competitive with themselves, just like you said, you're type A. And so once you commit to something like this, you're kind of like, well, I really should get compensated. I want to get compensated for this. It's just part of the your inner competitive
Right.
nature, right? Um, how would you rate your level of freedom, fulfillment, and financial satisfaction today?
Sure, yeah. If I start with freedom, it's very high. I think when I look at freedom, I think about making decisions and also my time. And from a decision standpoint, I own my own company, so I get to make decisions every day that I don't have to go through several layers of approval and things slowing down. I can go make decisions. From the standpoint of my time, some people think I'm absolutely crazy, but this is a choice that, as you think about the travel side of what we do and the opportunities that we get to travel. So not only am I growing this business, but I get to do it while I travel because I can work anywhere in the world, and I do. And I had no idea that so many opportunities would come my way so early. Like last year I traveled over 85 nights. This year I'm traveling by the end of the year, I'll have traveled almost 100 nights. This is
Wow.
while I'm running a business and, doing all those associated tasks. But I absolutely love it. I've just learned that, if I plan a little extra time in the morning to go get a few things done, and then I've got the afternoon to go explore a country.
Wow.
So freedom is fantastic. Fulfillment, that's off the charts as well. All you have to do is ask anyone who knows me friends, family, whatever, they see how much I love what I do. And when you love what you do, I work a ton of hours, but again, that's in my blood. But I don't care that I work a ton of hours because I love what I do. And if
Yeah.
I didn't want to work a lot of hours, I just don't take as many trips on, or I hire more people to come work for me. So, you have all those choices. And then from a financial satisfaction, again, like we talked earlier, it's high, and I never expected that I would have said that. So both from the money that you can make, and also from the financial satisfaction of being able to take trips and travel the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about a planning experience where you're either super proud of that trip that you planned for someone else, or you were kind of like, pinch me, I can't believe I get to do this.
Oh gosh, what came to my mind when you first said the trip that you're proud of is right. So we sell luxury travel, but I set a goal for myself that yes, I'd love to sell all the very best 5-star, over the
Yeah.
top, ultra luxe every time. But I never want to lose that, call it 10 to 15%, where maybe somebody's never left the US and they've been too afraid, or they don't have the money. I get a lot of fulfillment from that as well, and that was one of my first trips with a good friend of mine, helping he and his partner, go on a trip to Europe that honestly, and he's told me it over and over, he's like, we would not have gone because I could not have done this." So that just that just makes me so happy.
Yeah. 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 I totally get it. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I planned travel to Africa for 10 years before getting into this whole journey. And uh, I trip after trip after trip, people will come back and be like, that changed my life. That trip changed
Yeah.
my life.
Mhm.
I can't believe, and you know, Africa, a plain vanilla itinerary to Africa is going to change someone's life. But when you're able to customize
Yeah.
it to
Yeah.
their personal passions and their personal interests and their personal needs, it is beyond extraordinary.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons that you learned on this journey?
The lessons, I don't know I guess it's a lesson. It's just the believing in yourself, right? Because I almost didn't make the plunge because it was like, can I do this? Do I really think I can do this? Am I making a mistake? But I had a nice support network around me saying, you can do it. We know what you're capable of. So yeah, I think the biggest lesson for me is just believing in yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And because you came from 30 plus years in corporate America, I know that you probably brought with you on this journey an employee mindset,
Mhm.
and you know undoing that is part of the entrepreneurial journey. It was definitely a huge part of my journey. I brought a very much an employee mindset, so I was constantly looking for someone to tell me what to do. How did I score? I met expectations, exceeded
Yeah.
expectations, kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and do I have this in the budget? Can I make this decision? um, but yeah, so I think a huge piece of the journey that many people aren't necessarily expecting is the mindset piece. And believing in yourself is a huge one, right? Like, because a lot of people suffer from that imposter syndrome when they first
Mhm.
begin. They think, well, I
Yeah.
haven't been doing this for 10 years. How do I
Right.
call myself a travel advisor if I don't have 10 years experience doing it? Um, so yeah, I would agree with believing in yourself. Um, I know I'm just like intuitively picking up on a question that those who might be listening are thinking is, how did you attract the clients that,
Yeah.
how, because I think there's a lot of people who are really afraid. They want to get into selling luxury
Mhm.
travel. They see the appeal of it. They see the financial upside of doing it. That's what we preach here, the financial upside. I mean, it really is a game changer when you go from non-luxury to luxury. You can increase your income by 10 times
Yeah.
easily. Um, how did you get to the place where you're now $1 million advisor?
No, great question. It really starts with the fundamentals that you learn in TMBA. And right out of that class, I just started executing against it. And, I had a target within my first 90 days to get, a lot of, I had a big checklist, if you will. Like one of the things
Yeah.
was to write a warm letter to people, right? People that send them a letter and tell them about your business. Get on
Mhm.
social media and tell people about what you're doing. What I've learned is that I'm a lot more active on social media than I ever was before. And what I've learned
Mhm.
is people love to hear about what you're doing, especially when somebody starts up a small business. And so for me, it just started by telling my friends, and my friends reached out to me, and my friends started booking trips. None of them were huge trips. Some of them were, bigger than others, but that wasn't the game changer for me, but it was definitely the first step to become a game changer because I call my model 100% referral model. And that's people referring me. And it's also, when people take trips, I ask them to leave a review on Virtuoso. So I have a lot of clients that find me through reviews that I have on virtuoso.com as well. So level one was my friends started booking trips. My friends came back from their trips. They were happy with the experience. So they started through referring me. And people love to refer you if they have confidence in what you're doing. So I think one of the biggest pieces, and this definitely gets back to my working in a very high driven corporate company for so long, is at the end of the day you have to deliver. So you
Mhm.
can go plan a trip for someone, and if they come back and they're not happy, they're not going to go. Maybe you had some learnings from that, and nothing's going to be perfect that you learn from that, but the more that you can exceed people's expectations, the more they're going to continue to refer you to others. So there's the referral side, and then again, just staying very active on social media, so people know what I do, they know what I specialize in, they know what I can do to help them.
Yeah. And delivering it comes down to A, having confidence in yourself, B, having your own, really toning into your brilliance, which is travel planning and researching. But three is a super important piece is having access to a vetted collection of international travel partners that will
Yes.
deliver for you and having those relationships. And that's why choosing the right host agency is so important. If you want to be selling luxury travel, you've got to be partner with a host that is 100% focused on that so that they can help you deliver and over deliver on the service. All right. Well, thank you. So, in closing, my last question to you is what advice would you give to someone considering a career in travel?
Somebody considering a career in travel, I think some of it goes back to the believing in yourself, but I think it's also being honest with yourself. I think that I think that it takes a certain skill set in the travel industry to really be able to grow your business. And it doesn't mean somebody without that skill set can't do it. I just think that my advice would be, if you feel like you have the experience to go run your own business, to take the plunge. If you don't, then maybe go work for somebody who's done it to learn a little bit more about the business. Then you can take that next step to go start up your own business.
Mm,
Um,
that's good advice. All right. Well, Deana, you are amazing. We're very, very proud of your progress. You exemplify everything that we hope people can achieve in the Travel MBA program. So thank you for being a guest today. And how can people get a hold of you if they are looking for help with their travel planning?
Thank you. Deana, Deana at kingtraveldesign.com, or just go to my website, King Travel Design, and that will lead you back to me as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today, Deana. And until next time.